Hello everyone, and welcome back to the main stage here at FinTech Talents Building Societies. I'm Laura Camplisson, Product and Content Manager at VC Innovations, your host of today's event. And you'll join us for what I know is going to be a brilliant session. Our panel today is titled Innovation is Wherever You Build It. And it's a sentiment that we've really formed our event around. In fact, innovation can be wherever you build it. And also, I think whatever you need to build, it can be carried out by organisations working at the heart of their communities to serve real people. So I'm joined by three panellists today, each from a comparatively smaller scale financial institution, and I'm really looking forward to hearing their perspectives. So in no particular order, welcome first to Valerie Walwyn-Tait, representing the world of credit unions, as she's the Chief Executive Officer at Plain Saver. Hi, Valerie.
Hi, everybody.
I'm also joined today by Dean Waddingham, Chief Customer Officer at Hinckley and Rugby Building Society. Hi, Dean.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, and last but definitely not least, welcome to Josh Rowland, who many of you will have just seen present on our main stage. And Josh is Chief Executive Officer at Lead Bank, a community bank based in the United States. So welcome, Josh.
Hello.
And by way of introduction, I thought I would briefly go around and ask everybody to tell us about their role and tell us one thing that they really think everyone listening should know about their financial organisation or something that you're really proud of. So we'll start with Valerie.
Hi, everybody. My name's Valerie, as we said earlier, and I'm the CEO of Plain Saver Credit Union here in the UK. We service the armed forces and the airline industry. The one thing that I'm really proud of is that our credit union was started 27 years ago by grassroots workers within the airline industry.
Fantastic. And Dean, how about you?
Yeah, Chief Customer Officer at Hinckley and Rugby. So my role encompasses sort of everything around mortgages, savings, IS and change, our partnership office. In terms of what I'm most proud of, it's the way we try to treat our members as individuals and spend time to listen to them and to help them. And we've done some innovative things around mortgage referral committees and through our branches. But actually, none of the things I'm proud of at the moment are probably digital, which was interesting when I was thinking of it.
Great. And finally, Josh.
I'm Josh Rowland. I'm the CEO of Lead Bank, which is a 3-location community bank in the Kansas City, Missouri area. We're about 90 years old, chartered in 1928. We're a community bank focused in our geography here in the center of the United States. But over the last 3 years, we've expanded really aggressively through digital channels. So now we have, before we had about 3 unique account. Now we have over 250,000 all across the country. And that is because of our digital efforts and our digital strategy and partnerships.
Fantastic. So I think we'll get right into the questions. Obviously, this panel today is about approaches to innovation and digital transformation and your real experiences in that area. So I think if we start with Dean, what about you? Can you tell us your experience as a smaller building society looking to modernise, I suppose, and introduce new technologies?
Yes, of course. We've got a few things that we're proud of, and they tend to be around partnerships that we've developed with fintechs, with sort of IT companies around. So we've worked with a Danish fintech, and we've been able to do some good things in terms of our direct mortgage proposition. We're working with a supplier to sort of pull all of our financial data and all of our inputs from there together, and also somebody will help us with digital identity.
Oh, great.
But then we have some challenges because we've got legacy core systems, and actually, however good that front end is, I think one of the challenges most of our building societies will be legacy core systems that are very good at what they do, but it's getting the fantastic front ends to talk to the legacy systems.
Absolutely, and we'll come on a little more to some challenges later. I'm sure other panelists might have some shared experiences in that way. But Valerie, what about yourself? Coming from a credit union perspective, what's been your experience of innovation? Is digital something that's on the horizon for you?
I think right across the credit union sector, we're all at a different stage of the journey with technology. And like most businesses, it depends on the knowledge of the people and the comfort of the people working in that organisation, how quickly you adopt things and what you actually see as priorities. Like Dean, we have a legacy system, but we've also got another company that's new, that's innovative, that's developing, and they seem to embrace change quicker than our legacy system. But again, it's about getting the two things to work together. I'm not a technical person, but I do have some common sense approaches to technology. And it's this whole idea of allowing other people to plug their front end into your back end in order to meet the speed of change of our members' expectations.
Absolutely, but it's definitely something that's on the horizon. It sounds like for both of you. I know there's sometimes a little bit of an accusation, I suppose, that credit unions and building societies aren't really looking at modern technologies and innovation. But I don't think that's true at all, really. Valerie, what do you think? It's definitely something that you're looking to.
I think, as I've said before, there are 4 we're all at a different stage. They're at the head of their game and are doing as much as other large banks are doing. And there are some of us that are a bit slow to market and a bit more cautious and want to learn from other credit unions' experience before we actually go the whole hog into the technology field. But saying all of that, we still want to be unique in our customer service and serving our members. So that's always at the forefront of what we do.
Right. And Dean, I imagine that's the same for you. Building societies are all at quite different stages in this way, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. But I think speaking to my counterparts, we're all very much striving to take the historical service and replicate it in a digital world. It's just easier said than done. But yeah, there's definitely an ambition to do it.
So, Josh, what about Lead Bank as a community bank? How have you approached innovation? I know you've had some real successes in that way. So, could you tell us about that and how you look to achieve some of your digital aspirations?
Well, it's just a pleasure to be here and learning from different kinds of organizations in different communities. And what strikes me about what Valerie has said and what Dean has said is really what ties us together and the common ways that we've done it. Whether, to Dean's point, that it's a question about really leveraging partnerships and finding innovative partners, or to Valerie's point that what we're trying to do is find a way to deliver and translate our unique client service culture, the way that we engage our members. It's very much the same concern, and community banks operate in the same kind of way that you all do, in the sense of we have a kind of a geographically defined community of interest here in the United States, or historically we have. And so, but that comes with it a genuine relationship and authenticity in the relationship, where we have to care for the community in a way that I think is similar to the way that credit unions adopt the interests of their members, and the way that mutual organizations have to have that authentic kinship with their customers. So what we've done is really trying to take that ethos, that is at what we uniquely deliver, find a way to express that digitally, and find a way with partnerships. So seeking out what we call our channel partners, who are attuned to the kind of relationship and human interests that are served by good banks, in building their capacity and building their literacy in financial matters and building their health. And so that's where we've really seen our success, is finding those places where things are essentially underdeveloped by the big banks, because human beings are that's not really the target market of a big bank, a human being with all the complexity and all of the challenges. And so just like the banks here, the organizations here, that's what we've got to focus on, and find partners who appreciate that and have a tool that is delivered digitally, but that represents our values.
Yeah, and so that kind of leads nicely on to my next question, which is, do you think that community-based financial institutions like yourselves, do you have some really unique considerations when approaching new solutions for your members? And does this ever lead to maybe a hesitation to make changes? Josh, what's your perspective on that?
I can get on a kind of a soapbox about this. And just in the preparation call that we had for this panel and getting to meet Dean and Valerie, I think that what we have is the very essence of what makes us powerful and what can make us transformative for people's lives and for our own organizations. And that is the authenticity that we represent in the connection and the application of digital for real progress. However you conceive of what that community is, whether it's a credit union community, a geographic or community of interest. In some ways, I will just say, I'm trying to be more like you guys in the way that I think about who's a stakeholder in what we offer. It's not just geography, it's a community, however you define yourself as a member of the community. Admittedly, though, I think what happens is that we become kind of victims of our tradition, we become victims of our past practice. And the past practice becomes what our mission is, rather than refocusing people back on first principles of what we exist to do. We exist to make people's financial lives better, human beings better, and not, well, we've always done it this way, so that's what our mission is. That's practice. That's not our principle. And so if we can get our staff and our stakeholders to see that we are true to the principles that founded us, that they adopted when they joined with us, and that the digital expression of that is just a way to achieve it, that's where I think we can really leverage what our founding, what is at our core, and without trying to be sentimental, what is at our heart. I don't want to be overly sentimental about it, but I do think that they're profound about what a mutual organization is offering, or what a credit union is offering, or what a community bank is offering, that the whiz kids, the fintechs, they don't have. They don't know what to know about banking human beings, and that's our strength.
Great. And Valerie, Dean, I see you both nodding along as Josh was speaking there, but Dina, I'll come to you. Do you think that you have some unique considerations as a mutual organisation, where your members are really, really part of this? Does that affect how you look to new solutions?
I think it does. I would actually agree with everything Josh was said. I thought that was really an eloquent summing up of a lot of it, and very passionate, which is great. Yeah, we do. I mean, we have some reservations about going digital and being offering becoming commoditized, because we offer more than just a price. It's the whole sort of package. So that's sort of a concern to us. And we've had a few conversations internally, quite a lot of conversations about how do we take our brand and how do we take the essence of that and make that relevant and valued and applicable in a sort of digital world. I think we also have some challenges in terms of the structural. We're building societies, so we haven't got access to the capital markets to bring in lots of capital to do something very, very whizzy. So we can't go for taking people on that basis. And similarly, we're not there to maximize profits. We're there to do the best we can for our members. So in terms of constraints on financially what we can do, there are some challenges as well.
Yeah.
But that much out there. There's that much clever technology and clever people that actually, if you partner with them, there are solutions that don't need to cost you the earth.
And Valerie, as a credit union, how do you think that framework and the way that you're looking to interact with your members and the way that you're kind of achieving your goals, does that impact the way you look to technology? Do you have any reservations about going for new technologies?
Yeah, I always try and explain to people the tensions in my job. I'm not a commercial business, but I have to make some profit to serve our members. But I'm also very ethical, and that has to be at the heart of what I do. and that's in every part of the business. So that tension remains across everything. You know, yes, you want your customers to have a brilliant service, but not at the sake of losing what we're there to do, and our integrity and our ethos, and, you know, our members being first. I would struggle to get out of bed to make anybody profit. I haven't done that for over 40 years. And, you know, when I go up against commercial properties, what I'm selling is that authenticity, that we are serving our members, and I am in service for them along with my team, and they're at the forefront of any development that we do.
Yeah, and we touched a little already on the struggle with legacy systems and some other challenges with actually bringing these solutions into place once you've decided to go for them. I wonder about your experiences in that way. So, you know, as a small institution looking towards digital change, how easy is it to find the right technology out there and actually bring that into practice? Valerie, what do you think?
I think my experience has been that what we used to do is just add bits on. So you then had to have relationship with 5 different providers, and it was a bit, that in itself is what we've looked to do is streamline as much as possible. So what I've always been looking for is a one-phase solution, but that doesn't seem to be available on the market in terms of enhancing what we do for our members and providing us with a one-shop solution to all the elements of what we do, you know, be it marketing, be it comms, be it finance, be it lending, be it saving. I don't want 5 different systems. And my experience of our legacy system is they've got comfortable. They don't actually meet the needs of today's technology. But like Dean said, we don't have investors. It's our members and our customers' money that we have to make sure that we invest with some level of accountability of making the right decision on their behalf.
No, absolutely makes sense. Josh, what about in the United States? Is that, you know, a consideration that affects you as well? Is the right technology out there? Are the tech providers, you know, out there that are able to bring in these solutions that you need?
Well, you know, simply put, no. The core providers in the United States, the legacy core providers that control and our systems of record, you know, so essential to daily operation and making sure that everything balances. They are completely complacent and indifferent to the very customer needs that they purport to serve. That is us as banks. I'm pretty harsh about all of this because I'm pretty disappointed. But it's exactly as Valerie said. So I think what I have adopted, though, is the same recognition that Valerie has. It's not going to be a one-stop shop, because in that respect, we have to take more responsibility ourselves as leaders of banks about putting together a system. The very fact that there is so much choice does create a responsibility for us to choose correctly, because no one is going to have the answer for us. Because in that respect, our members or the stakeholders are different. We have different expectations, and thankfully, we all have explanations and think, okay, what would be right? What is my choice? It's true always, though. I think as you make these decisions, that we've got that no matter whether you think that you have access to capital or you are responding to the kind of the best that you can deliver for your members, it's all the same thing. If it doesn't work for your members, then it was a wasted investment. If it doesn't work for our stakeholders, it's a wasted investment. Whether we and so the stakes are high. There's no doubt the stakes are high. But yeah, I mean, simply put, we have to figure out how to work down our dependence on a single provider. That is our single core provider to add a middle layer that allows people to plug into us and allows us a place to exercise our creativity and our ingenuity around what our members could really, what our clients, I keep using your language, but what our clients could really benefit. We're going to have to do that. We're going to have to staff up our technology office, and we're recruiting a chief technology officer to help us build out that and be responsible for our data strategy. Be responsible for software development if we go down that road. And all of that is very different than a consideration that we had even 10 years ago when I started.
Yeah, absolutely. Dean, what are your thoughts? Your legacy system, you mentioned earlier, that's kind of a challenge that you're grappling with. Does that ever restrain or hold you back from tech that you'd like to implement? Or
I think it potentially has. I think there's some fantastic tech out there that you would want to plug in. I think there's a big challenge around actually filtering from all of the things that are out there. What are the things that you're interested in? I'm frightened that the emails that I probably don't respond fully to from people, from opportunities were probably fantastic, and that's a challenge at the moment. In terms of core providers, I think we need to get these APIs so we can join things together, and actually I think more collaboration amongst the sector where we can, and it's non-competitive, to get the core providers to do that, to up their game on their front ends, because if we can get the one-stop straight the way through, that would be brilliant, but without it being a dependency, without being forced into that route, them competing with others to provide that front end digitally for our members. That's really what I would like to see. But I think as an industry, if we collaborated more, put more pressure on, I think that could help us as well.
Is that, Valerie, do you think that collaboration in the credit union space would help to put pressure on as well in terms of the tech that's out there and available? Or
I think like most small to medium-sized companies, big players don't take us seriously. When we're not important, half of the time we're not even on their radar in terms of what we do. So as Dean says, it really makes it difficult to have any power or leverage in those types of negotiations or relationships. And that's our weakness. But I think the thing about the credit union sector, as I've said before, we go from one extreme to another. So we go from a little credit union in a church run by volunteers on a Sunday to large credit unions like ours that are heavily regulated, that have to operate like banks. And so there's not one solution. And even if you collaborate, as we have done in our sector, there's always that mismatch of the types of credit unions that you use. And we are unique in terms of whoever leads that credit union or however the board is made up influences what you're able to do and where your priorities are. And that's just the so collaboration, I hear this word all the time. I do collaborate, but I only collaborate with people that I trust or within groups that I trust.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Josh mentioned a little, you're bringing in, did you say a chief technology officer to help with, kind of building up some digital in-house? If you don't have the capability to, build these technologies in-house and to build massive teams for digital and smaller organizations, do you think there's still a need to change, the digital culture that you've got within the organization and make a shift to kind of accepting innovation? Valerie, I can see you're nodding there.
Only because we've recently, my number 2 is very IT focused. And he has, in his first 6 months throughout lockdown, revolutionized the front end of our offer in terms of technology, because he speaks the language. He can't be have the wool pull over his eyes in terms of when we're asking for something to be done. And I was smiling earlier on because I'm the world's worst mystery shopper. So I transferred some money out of my credit union account, and I wanted to know when it was going to hit my bank, and when it didn't, I was asking questions. And, I said what we've all said here. I said to my team, yeah, I get all that, but this is not going to be relevant in the future. We need to step up in terms of our technology and the speed at which we respond into servicing our members. So that's why I was smiling. So yeah, if you can get a number 2, make sure they got technical. Makes our life easier.
How easy is that to do, though, do you think, to build a digital culture, so to speak, in an organisation that's quite, long established? There's often a little bit of a bit of an accusation, as I said earlier, that building society member bases are from older generations who perhaps don't understand tech, and maybe people working at building societies. Is there a bit of a generational gap, or do you think that that's an unfair accusation? What do you think, Dean?
I think it has been, but I think some of it may be to do with breaking it down and not necessarily calling it digital. It's things like we've got a war on paper. Yeah. So actually everybody knows that every piece of paper is costing us money. It's not the way of the future. So particularly during this period of COVID, we've done everything we can to get away from that and digitize processes. I don't think you need the technical ability to back it up, but culturally, I think it's breaking it down to member messages, efficiency messages and the likes, which people readily understand. And I think we've got quite a varied range of ages in our senior team. We've got quite a few who are a bit younger, and a few going through the sort of Loughborough BSA Masters course, and they're coming in with new ideas all the time. So not necessarily technology, but in terms of service to members, which ultimately is what it's all about. Yeah.
Josh, do you put a lot of importance on that, then, having a digital culture within your staff as well? You mentioned you're bringing in a new position for digital, but is that something that you've been building in the organisation as well? Do you think that's leading to more innovation?
Yeah, there's so much. This is such a rich topic because one of the initial objections that we got to trying to implement, say, even in enhanced mobile banking, this was years and years ago, was that the traditional customers of our bank in one of our charter location outside of the major metropolitan area of Kansas City, they didn't want any of that. They didn't use any of that, and it was getting people to realize that, in fact, all of those people with mobile phones, they are experiencing a digital transformation. They are engaged in their own digital transformation. So your condescension, frankly, that they don't care is not accurate. The older generations are the #1 users of Facebook and Instagram, which is why kids no longer use Facebook and Instagram. When you start to unpack the kind of presumptions that people have about who is really tech savvy, I think what I feel and what we communicate we're able to communicate is, wait a second, everybody is engaged in this transformation. Absolutely. Everybody is using their computer or their phone for communication, for entertainment, for business. And to Dean's point, the digitization of our world based on COVID, following COVID, just typifies that. It accelerates it. It does everything. So, but here's what I would say about the question of building a culture. It's only come up very recently that we need to think about a data culture. Okay. And we're not really, so I don't really want to emphasize digital in some ways because that's not really deep enough. Where we get deeper is in thinking about data and having people have a data mindset. We're working right now on revising our job descriptions at operations and all throughout to start to ask people for a data awareness and a data sensitivity, so that if we have an opportunity in loan operations, that we have people there that could start to say, oh, what if we could automate this process based on the data that we have? Could we understand that ourselves? Could we intuit it from our experiences working here? And could that make us a better bank so that we're able to deliver solutions to our clients in faster and better? That's the kind of transformation that I think we're beginning our journey for, around data sensitivity, data awareness, a data culture at our bank.
Fantastic. Anyone have any more thoughts to add to Josh's point there, or shall I?
I did. I think what we found with having to bring people into our team with the specific skills to deal with technology, we had to really look at the market. So they outstrip what my current team get paid. So that was an issue in terms of what we had to pay to get those skills.
Right.
And it's kind of pushed the pay scales out of whack. But we had to make that decision to pay for what we needed.
Can I add something to that, Laura, which picks up on a point that Dean made earlier?
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
Which is about the question of the idea of commoditization. And I share Dean's concern about commoditization, but I think I'm coming at it from a different fear. And my fear, which is really what prompts, I think, the investment that we've made in digital tools and in data awareness, is I feel like what has happened to us as small institutions is that the very essence of what we deliver in terms of authentic and meaningful and helpful financial services has been commoditized away from us. I don't think that people, the average consumer in the United States, feels today that they have any authentic connection. So because we've preached to them about price all the time, we've preached about free checking in the United States. That was financed and funded on overdraft fees. But that's not, so it's not really free, but essentially we have become our own worst enemy, communicating what a relationship, a long-term relationship actually means and how it produces value. So I think the thing that scares me is now we're competing against fintech companies who've never done the work that we've done and who are in some ways benefiting from our own commoditization of the services in order to be the low-cost leader. But we can't be the low-cost leader as small institutions. We have to be the value leader. We have to be the relationship leader. And that's where the question of investing in digital tools and a data strategy to impart that to new audiences, to new markets who do care about authenticity, who care about values. That's where I think our strategy has to focus.
Can I add another word into that? We need to be the leaders in trust as well. And I think some BSA research, and I also got it to hand, demonstrates that actually consumers would rather trust a building society with their data than they would one of the big commercial banks. But we're not far enough down the journey to actually take advantage of that. And I think we need to get there.
And I agree with my peers here that, you know, for us in the UK, in the credit union sector, what's made us seem more commercial than we'd like to be is the regulators. So a credit union my size has seen a huge amount of regulations coming out of the world since the banking crisis, because prior to that we weren't on the regulators' radar, which has fundamentally changed the way that we run our business. And a lot of our day-to-day resources are spent meeting regulations and compliance. And like Josh says, it takes away, you know, when my members say, well, what are you asking me that for? You know, it's uncomfortable to say because the regulators want it.
They have to, yeah.
You know, and that just changes the relationship.
I wonder, so obviously, Josh, the model's a little bit different for a community bank for you guys at Lead Bank, but Dean and Valerie, your core products really are savings and mortgages products. Is there ever a pressure, do you feel, to be able to give new products in the future, such as like current accounts? Is there any demand from, you know, competing in that way, or not particularly?
Well, I just done my customer survey, and we always ask them what products, you know, don't we have that you like. The top two were credit cards and a current account, which we don't offer. But then again, you know, you have to think about our membership, and it's different in the States for credit unions because they kind of start from the cradle, you know, in terms of banking products. Whereas when somebody comes to a building society or a credit union, we're not their primary bank normally. So the markets are slightly different. And both of those products come with issues that our members wouldn't even think about. But in terms of the complexities and the regulations, I don't have a staffing force big enough. I'd have to employ different people to do the work that around those specific products. So it's not a no, and there are fintech companies that offer a card or a thing, but you know, I have to think about which percentage of my membership is going to benefit from that before I invest heavily in it. So, you know, like we've said, we're small businesses and we have to juggle a lot of balls and a lot of stakeholders within our decision making.
I think we're the same. It's very much stick knitting in terms of the mortgages and savings. We want to offer very good support for people in those two product areas. We're worried if we stretch ourselves more thinly, we'll not be as good at our core. I think what we do need to do, though, is get better at being able to let people very quickly get money to their check transaction account, so that actually if they need to do something with the money they've got with us, they can instantaneously get it to their nominated bank account, and they can do what they want with it with a specialist in that area.
Right. So what is it then? What do you think it is that for future generations is going to continue to appeal and keep bringing people back to mutual and community-based banking institutions? Is it going to be the technology that we're looking to bring in that's going to attract future generations, or is there more to this? You know, what is it that's going to ensure that the continued relevance of building societies, credit unions, community banks? Should we start with Dean? What do you think?
I think the technology's got to be on a par with our competitors. So I think we've got to be there because there's a sort of base hygiene factor that we've got to meet and consistently meet. But no, I don't think that's the essence of our proposition. I think the proposition will be about the interactions we have around mortgages and savings, the product offerings we've got. On the mortgage side, the willingness we have for our senior team every day to get together and look at some complex mortgages and untangle things that just won't go through the sausage machine of the big banks. So that's where we're at, but we've got to make that relevant for a generation who have different expectations of how they're served. Yeah.
Would you agree, Valerie?
I think I do agree, but I do think there's some work for us to do on educating society around finance, not just financial education, but how finance actually works. I do lots of talks, and you know, I've got some quick tips that people, you know, check your credit, just really things that we take for granted. And you know, let's stop using a lot of language that our members and our customers actually don't understand. So I think demystifying what we do, which is something the banks don't do in terms of computer says no and it's a no. You know, one of my uniqueness things is, well, if computer says no, we can actually say yes, which doesn't happen. That's what's different, and that we do have people making decisions, not machines making decisions.
And we're exactly the same on that. And I think also in terms of community, it's more the geographical side. But to follow on from Valerie's point, we do have people going out into the schools, supporting in interview techniques and so on, but also in terms of financial awareness and developing a relationship with the geographical based community from an early age.
Josh, what are your thoughts? Do you share similar experiences in the US? What do you think will, you know, keep the continuity and the longevity of community banks as opposed to the big banks in the US?
I think it's our soul.
Yes, yeah.
I think it's our soul that will enable us to defeat them. Actually, this is how maybe aggressive I feel about this. I feel that that we are in a kind of a pitched battle, and that we need to be fighting for our soul and the soul of our communities, however we serve them, and so that means to me that if any of us were creating a brand new community-based financial institution, we wouldn't be spending a lot of time thinking about our bricks and mortar location. It's obvious, right? We wouldn't be thinking about that. We'd be planning digital. Mm-hmm. So in some ways, I don't want to be too, but it's kind of silly for us to be talking about it as a brick and mortar kind of relationship. Yeah, it's human. It's human, but that is not about, as we know now, we're not solely human if we're in the same room. We are still human if we can find the tools that allow us to express ourselves and to share. So in that respect, I think we have got to cling to our soul, and we've got to fight for it, and we've got to carry the flag for it, and say that soulless organizations, enterprises are not fit for purpose. They are not fit for purpose. And our value is our values. And
I like that.
And we need to carry that out, and we're not going to be shy about it. And frankly, we're going to argue with our regulators, because certainly our regulators in the United States said, well, community banks don't do what you're doing. And I said, well, that's on them. It's not about that's not us. There's nothing that says we can't do it. We've got to do it. Because nothing that, to Valerie's point about what the regulators are the way that they're converting us into transactional beasts, we can resist it, and we can go up against them and say, if any credit union or any community bank or anybody or any bank in the United States can do this, we have a right to do it, and we're going to pursue it. Because it is about who we are and about what we offer and about what people need.
I would not want to be the regulator in that argument, so I like that. Our value is our values. That's fantastic. We're almost out of time, but I would just like to ask one final question, very relevant to where we are today, I think. We've spoken so much about how the situation with COVID and all the remote working and the remote ways of interacting have really accelerated a transformation to digital. Has that been your experience? Do you think the last few months have changed anything? Have things moved quicker, or have you found even more so priorities are shifted elsewhere, perhaps? What do you think, Valerie? What's been the impact for you?
Well, taking a business that's never been remote one day was cross your fingers and exercise, especially as we didn't have enough kit. When I joined the company 4 years ago and I asked for a laptop, people were like, well, what do you want one of those for? So we've come a long way in 4 years with the business operating remotely successfully. I think we had an earlier conversation, and we recognise that as a remote company, there are some essences that you use that you lose whilst trying to develop people, develop culture. I do we hit a problem, I'll walk out on the floor and say, right, let's have a Val's breathing session. And that's kind of a Val coaching session. We've lost that. And, we've had a really good year, and I'm really sad that I don't have an opportunity to celebrate with my team who have worked really hard through COVID. But we learned some new technical, we have advanced our technology in terms of the things that we use, be it Zoom, Teams, GoToMeeting. It's improved some things. So I've got a board that is spread all over the country. We've been able to have better attendance because it's online. They still talk for as long and keep it, but it's a more enjoyable experience for them as well, I think. So yeah, we've used all the things that are now about.
Yeah, very similar. Fortunately, we had a good network and quite a lot of people that remotely, and we've accelerated that out, more equipment, more licenses. But then we've also been able to change a lot of processes and digitize them. We've got our risk people engaged in, a concentrated piece of work to make sure we could do that safely, to a timeline that just never would have been contemplated if we hadn't had COVID. So yeah, that's been excellent. I'd agree with Valerie that the human interaction, the coaching, all of that side. The other side of it for us is the customer side. Branches have been able to open less, so there are less transactions. So it's driving to the fact that actually people are getting used to digital because they can't get the branch interaction. And that's the way it's going. Yeah.
Have you found that as well, Josh? More customers, using digital ways that weren't perhaps before, or in another way? Do you think that recent months have changed anything in terms of acceleration to digital for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the happiest things about it actually is that we're able to be more flexible as an employer because we see that people can get the work done. There are definitely trade-offs on the downside, like Valerie was saying.
Yeah.
But there also are attributes which mean that we can recruit and that we can enable, say, single mothers to work because they can, if they have children who they can't afford proper daycare, or their children are home from school for some reason, or all of that has taught us as management that we have the tools to enable a really flexible workforce. And that is empowering to create greater diversity in our workforce. So that's a really good thing. And it is equally true to Valerie's point and to Dean's point that we've got to figure out how to deal with what we lose when we're not together all the time.
Yeah.
And that puts pressure on us, I think, to be both really responsive in the digital tools that we adopt internally as well as externally, and to really be focused on how those innovations can help us deliver on those human experiences. So that even if we're compromising somewhat on that, we have a mix of ways that people can interact with us that still each of them has its integrity and feels true to the way that we want to communicate.
Yeah. And it's by the power of technology that we've got you all here today. So that's fantastic. Well, thank you all so much. I think we will leave it there because we're almost out of time, but thank you for joining us. It's been a fantastic session. I've certainly learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone watching has as well. Thanks, Valerie, Josh, and Dean for joining me, and to everyone for watching us.